Hi everyone, so I'm just waiting for Jasmine to join. I should be able to add her in and then we will get started. I'm so excited about today's conversation. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. I think Jasmine is joining now. Hi
Hello,
Jasmine. How
hello,
are you?
hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. Thanks for having me today.
So excited about today's conversation because we've tried to have it so many times, haven't we? And we've gone
I
like,
know.
is it still a sacral yes for you? Yeah, is it sacral yes for you? Yeah, let's go.
Exactly. We're like, yes, of course it's a sacral yes. Now we just have to schedule it in our scheduler.
Definitely. Oh, well, so excited to have you here. I'm also going to record this as a podcast. Is that okay with you?
Of course. Yeah, that sounds great.
Fabulous. So, for our listeners, I would love for you to just share a little bit. Maybe we'll do some introductions. Like, so you kick us off, Jasmine, and introduce yourself um, to the listeners and watchers, and then I'll do a little bit of an intro as well because we might have a little bit of both followers on, so we can just do a little mini intro.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. Yes, so I am Jasmine. I am the CEO of a company called Quantum Femme Wealth. But really, that is a manifestation of something that has become incredibly important to me as a mission, which is helping women become first generation joyful millionaires. And so I didn't grow up with money. I went through lots of, ups and downs as we all do, but made the radical choice to just figure it out. And, it has been such a journey, but I'm sharing all of my secrets as much as I can with women to really empower them because I think, finances is just something we don't talk about enough. And at the end of the day, money is really nothing, but it certainly allows us to build with this magic wand that is money, the life we desire. And so I think more happy, amazing women millionaires will change the world.
Absolutely. I agree. And I love that you said joyful and happy. I feel like that's such an important part of the process, right? And it's been
It
a journey for so many to actually align in what brings us joy, what makes us feel happy. And
That's
that's
right.
and also Jasmine didn't mention, but Jasmine is a best-selling author. So congratulations,
Yes,
Jasmine.
thank you.
And that theme
Yes,
really comes through in your book as well, that, joyful, happy, aligned, which is, yeah, absolutely in alignment with everything that I talk about. So I'll just introduce myself in case there's anyone watching that doesn't know me. So I am an energy alignment coach and I work with a combination of quantum healing and coaching to help women be their most authentic, abundant self. So really is that blend of, in fact, my clients say they've never seen anyone blend science and spiritual to a deep level so much. That's how they describe me. So I will use that description. So, shall we dive into today's conversation? And this
yeah.
really came about, didn't it? Because we had a call and we were talking about our life experiences, and we realized that, we both had these experiences where we'd listened to our sacral and it had brought us abundance. And we were just like, oh my gosh, we have to talk about this. We have to share this with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's really interesting. So prior to launching my own business, I spent a good 20 plus years in corporate and marketing and sales. And I think everybody can relate to this moment where you've got this real pull. It's almost like, we talk about women's instinct, or you've got this really, really just pull to be like, I want to do this thing. And it feels unachievable, maybe unattainable. And then next thing you know, what would happen to me is I would really get into my head. I would be like, well, like just as an example, to leave corporate and start my own business. It was like, I thought about that for so long, right? It was like, I knew my sacral, my gut knew where we were going, and yet I was resisting. So it was that kind of like that headspace, that pros and cons list that we're actually taught to make that held me back, which is quite funny when you think about it, right? It's like we're taught to really just figure it out and be very in our head and, very strategic and very thoughtful. And yet when I just followed that call, that's when really abundance changed in my life. And for those that are listening, abundance for me really looks like, going from a single mom with $50,000 in debt to multi-millionaire. So this is not like a little bit of abundance. This is overflow, and not just on the money side, but just in how I'm living my life and how I'm creating money and how I'm bringing value. It's all of that.
I love that so much. It's so powerful. And we're born listening to our bodies, right? Like we're born like literally like as children. It's like we listen to our bodies and then all these things happen. And yeah, I was in corporate for 15 years as well. So I like completely, resonate with that journey of like the head. And then even like, even I remember as a teenager, like making a like for and against list about a boy, like, as a
Yeah,
teenager,
yeah.
like, it's so deeply conditioned, there's logic, isn't it, into so many areas of our life. And I found same as you. I think the most profound moment where this started for me, which I think I might have shared this with you, was when I was invited to go out to, because I think what we talked about is you've sort of experienced a bit of a journey through your yes, and actually the start of my journey was actually through the no. I think the most profound experience that I've had was when I was invited out for this meal. And this meal was at a restaurant that I just did not vibe with. It was like really greasy burger restaurant in a town I didn't want to go to. And the mind was like, you should go there. You should be, like be the good girl, go to the meal, do the thing. My body was just like, no, I just don't want a burger. Like, I just can't, like, I can't face being in this restaurant. My body was like, no, 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 no. I want to be on the sofa with a plate of vegetables. Like, that was what my body is telling me. And despite like all of this mind chatter and all of these like perceived expectations of others going to this meal, I said, no, I'm not going. You guys, you go without me. The moment they got in the car and started the car and drove away, £500 went into my bank account, like immediately in that moment. And that was a gift from a family member, just out of the blue. She said, oh, I thought of you, and I just decided to give you some money for the house. And that was that first moment of like, okay, this cannot be coincidence, there has to be something in this. And then I started to continue to just keep listening, and what I started to realize is that I was actually saying yes to a lot of things that I should have been saying no to. Recently in the last 2 weeks has shifted for me, and I've just been doing crazy sacral yes things. But this would happen for me, this pattern of like, body says no despite the mind saying, yeah, but what if da 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 da. Body says no, I'd say no, and money would arrive in my bank account
Yeah. Yeah.
immediately. Like,
And you're
you
like,
can't even explain it.
yeah. And I think, I've had a similar experience, maybe more on the yes side. I think it's really interesting because that sacral no is really about trusting that you can put boundaries in and you're safe. And that sacral yes is similar, but it's like I can lean in and take a risk and I'm safe, right? And so for me, it has been this combination of like listening to that sacral yes, but also cultivating self-trust. And the nuance in that is just really deeply knowing that I've got me and that I'm also radically responsible for whatever happens with that. So the nuance that I've been playing with recently is, I've had this idea that it has to be a full body yes. And it's more like just a hit of inner knowing. And then it's like drop into, do I, lean into this more or not? And so there's moments where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to say yes because I like to live big and I'm just going to see what's going to happen on the other side. Right. And so that's kind of even like leaned me farther into that sacral yes, because for a long time it would be like, if it keeps coming back, then it's a hard yes. Right. If it's just something I can't shake, right? Like the book that I just wrote that you mentioned, Transcending the White Picket Fence. I went with my girlfriends this weekend to a nice weekend away, which was great, filled my cup. And I couldn't find my journal, which was really bizarre. I was like, where's my journal? Where's my journal? I couldn't find it. Anyway, I pulled open this drawer that I hadn't been in a while, and it's got all kinds of like fun spiritual grounding things in it. And I saw this journal here and I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful. I'll just use this one. And I pulled it out and I opened it up, and it actually was my goals from 2020, if you can imagine. And the name of the book was on the page. To do,
Wow.
write a book. Yes. And it was slightly different. It was something like, but the essence was the same. And so, this just goes to show, like, when we have these things that consistently come in our lives that are like, you are called to, it's almost like a divine download from the universe saying, like, you are meant to live this. And if you can trust that and trust yourself enough to lean into whatever uncertainty, whether it's like the boundaries, or whether it's, you know, can I handle this, or whether it's too much risk, whatever it is, and move it into action, bring it into the 3D, become it, like everything changes. Everything changes. And even
This
if
is
it doesn't work out exactly as you had imagined, you still build enough building blocks that you keep going, you keep leaning. And then next thing you know, boom, you are the thing.
just so crazy, Jasmine, because you know we were having that conversation about this, the yes and no before. We were like, this is so aligned. You're never going to guess what. A few months ago, I found my journal from 2020.
No
Exactly the
way.
same, yeah. And at the time, I was married to a man. I was living sort of nearer to a city. I was like deeply misaligned, unhappy. And what I'd written in this journal was, this is my 5 to 10 year vision, and it said, I'm deeply in love. I live by the sea. I have an animal family. I have these cats and dogs. I have dogs that I walk on the beach. And it said all of these things. And then I opened this journal and was like, oh my gosh, this is my life now. This is my life now. I've met my soulmate. I moved in with her and her two dogs, which I walk on the beach. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is describing my life. And I did that in 2 years, and that was my 5 to 10 year vision. But I'd forgotten, same as you, like I'd almost forgotten about it. And then you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, this happened. And I feel in that moment, do you feel this? So like you're actually accessing like your future self. It's like your future self is coming back and saying, this is what you've achieved.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
It's
like,
like,
you're
don't
almost
forget to
accessing
be
that.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, don't forget to be in gratitude that you're here, right? Because now that you're here, you've probably got a whole laundry list of things that you want to do for the next 5 to 10. And so it's,
Yeah.
you know, enjoying and being present as well as we start to collapse time. But I think that's what the sacral yes has really done for me, is like when we talk about the quantum, and I know you and I love where science and manifestation
Mm-hmm.
meet, but like for me, my sacral has been almost like my compass.
Yeah.
And at times it actually doesn't even make sense. Like if I truly sat down and wrote out like pros and cons, or like effort to reward, or any of those things, it would be like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But when I just do it without questioning it, when I collapse time on the action around it, that's when I am able to move it from a 5 to 10 year plan to 2. Right. And
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like nothing's happening. And yet, as long as I'm doing that, everything's happening.
I completely agree. It's taking that leap. I actually have a real life example this week, which was with you and Meg. I actually have a real life
Oh, yeah.
example, like I'll share that, so we were on a call, and you mentioned a secret offer, and everything, my body was like, yes, of course, why would I not want to work with Jasmine and Meg? So I just like, yeah, like I'm doing it, this feels aligned, I'm going in
Yeah.
for it. And it's been the most amazing offer. um and then literally the next day, half the money came back in straight away that morning, and I totally know it's because I made that leap. And I've just, yeah,
Yes.
I've seen it happen time and time again, where it's just like, the mind is like, yeah, but da, 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 and this I think, like, I'm quite I'm lucky now that my partner is like on the same page. Like, she understands the quantum field as well. But very much that, like, the head and the logic was like my ex-husband. It was like, well, on paper, show me the figures. And that was like so conditioning for so long. But yeah, you're completely right when you just follow that. And like,
Yeah.
and another thing that you said earlier, which I think is really important, is the self-trust piece. It's
Mm-hmm.
really building that self-trust, isn't it? Like, I've got this, and I know that I can leap because I've got that deep safety in my body. And that takes, it does take like building up those small things. Like, the example I always use with my clients is, some mornings I wake up, and rather than have my cup of tea, I make a teapot of tea. So I wake up those mornings and my body's like, teapot today. Let's have like a full teapot of tea. And I go, okay, right, I trust you. You make that decision. Let's have the teapot. And then it's the small things like that that build up, don't they, into the, like, the big, the big leaps, the big trust, because the trust is there. We've started with the small, and that then
Yeah.
leads into the big.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the stuff that we're going to be deepening. So the secret offer that Gemma's talking about, actually, I'll share one of the things after this. We're doing a wild wealth deepening, which is like the codes, like what actually do you have to do to make crazy wealth? And the reality is, like, part of it is making crazy moves, like taking action on these sacral yeses, taking action on this intuition. And a lot of times it just doesn't make sense on paper. You know, I'll give an example. About a year and a half ago, there was a house for sale. My husband and I are in real estate. That's one of the ways that we've created wealth, is to like set our lifestyle and then take all of our extra income and create assets that generate more money. So like making money in your sleep, so to speak. We'll talk about that because of course property management is required, but it's worth it. And so we saw this house. It was super competitive market. We're like, let's put a bid. I did not see the house. And we did. We got the house. It was like the best one out of 20 offers. And at the time, I felt like, oh my gosh, you know, we spent more than necessarily we should have based on the market price. Like that was the head thinking. It was like, well, let me look up how much this is supposed to be worth. And we paid over that. But you know, fast forward a year and a half later, the land alone is worth $150,000 more, just the land. And then we're going to rezone it, which will make it worth even more. And then we're going to tear the house down there. And then, you know, so when you look on paper, it's like, well, I paid more than I should have. You know, I had to carry it at a slight loss for a year. And yet I'm still so far ahead. And so when we come to these decisions from a place of scarcity and a place of it can't work, or it's not going to work, or it's not abundant, or I'm questioning this like pull to just do something. If I'm getting in my head and overthinking, that is potentially blocking the abundance that can come through. Now, I'm not suggesting that you make crazy decisions that you feel like you're not aligned to, but if you feel an inner pull, if you can collapse time on that and stop overthinking it, this is really where things start to become incredible.
Yeah, I love that so much. And that sounds like what you're talking about there is that like limitless possibilities. Like you say, you're collapsing time. When you follow the body knows, your body knows, like your gut is so connected to the future timeline that it's
Yeah,
already there. It's saying, hey, look, Jasmine, like we've done this and this has turned out so much better than you'll ever imagine. Let's send that
exactly.
signal back to the present moment. That's what the gut is doing, isn't it? So it's like it is completely a collapse of time. It's like we're here already, so let's send that
Yes.
signal back. And same with the no as well, isn't it? It's like I did this business collaboration that was complete disaster in the end. And at the time, and I was quite vulnerable at the time because I was going through a divorce, so I can see like why that version of me made that decision. But the person I did the collaboration with kept saying, "This is so exciting," and I was kind of going, "Oh, it isn't, but it should be." All right, yeah, it's exciting, you know. And I kind of gaslit myself for it. She was kind of gaslighting me, and then it turned out horrifically. And I think that was because that gut response was like, no, the excitement wasn't there. And it's, you know, it was similar. The future self was like, this is not going to turn out. This needs to be a no. So it works with the yes and the no.
And I think there's this, you know, this real nuance in here, because it's like, how do I discern? And I'll just say it for the listeners, because I think this is what comes up, is like when I get a sacral yes and I'm moving into something that's new territory, what happens is your body gets activated. Like we are human, we are born human. And so we start to get these signals of like, oh my gosh, this is not safe. And so discerning, having the incredible discernment to know this is something I deeply desire, and moving through that natural body response of nervous system dysregulation is massive. Because what I see a lot of happen for women is they have this deep desire. They have this inner knowing. They're like, yes, I want this. I see this a lot with women who want to get into real estate with me. And then all of a sudden we go to move and they're like, oh my gosh, this feels really uncomfortable. And we can mix it up to say, well, it's not a full body yes,
Mm-hmm.
versus acknowledging that this is just doing something new. So really knowing if you deeply desire something and then being able to hold yourself through the dysregulation post the sacral yes is magic. Because then what happens on the other side of that is, you're right, your body starts to go, oh, actually, that was totally safe. And then you can do it again, and you can do it again, and you can do it again. This is why the first time you lean into these big, you know, big money or big leaps or big wild wealth codes, it's difficult, because you start to have this normal, natural response of nervous system dysregulation because you're doing something you haven't done before. But if it's something you deeply desire, you need to cultivate that radical self-trust, that radical responsibility that you're going to be okay. And that's how you shift it. like when I really think about what I've done, and we're going to talk about this even on the call after the secret one,
Yeah.
we'll deepen this with a level of nuance, but that is huge because I think we have this normal response that says danger, and to discern and be able to know, is this real danger or is this just the natural body's response to something new? And overcoming that time and time again is how you allow yourself to actually be able to do big things other people can't do. So I watched a video one time with Elon Musk's wife, and she said he is so incredible at what he does because he's able to hold the capacity to do things most people can't do. And what she was really describing is what we're talking about. It's like, you think that he doesn't get nervous system dysregulation, maybe at a much higher level than us, but it still happens. And so the difference is, he's able to hold himself through that regulation and just keep going. And so most people will choose comfort over the discomfort of holding themselves to do something new.
I love
That's
this
my
so
take.
much. It's so important to hook the nervous system in. And something that I see really commonly is like almost the dysregulation gets delayed because we feel like we shouldn't be in it. And what's actually
Yes.
happening in the body is like that natural fight or flight mode. And what we actually need to do is work with the fight flight. But I see
Yeah.
so many women go, oh, I'm just going to chill and meditate. And actually they stay in it longer. But then,
Yeah.
it's longer that you're not following that sacred yes then. But what we need to do is work with the fight or flight and allow the body to move. Sometimes I'll just go, I feel a bit dysregulated. I'll go dance or walk around the block,
Yes.
because your body's like, there's danger. I need to fight or flight. Okay, I'm going to let it fight or flight. Then we move into regulation. So I feel like there's something about like movement and somatics to actually that help bring us bring us into that sacred yes and trusting that sooner and
Yeah.
shortening that process. And I know for me in the past, I've been in dysregulated states for much longer and then
Mm.
haven't followed the sacred yes and have missed opportunities. And I feel like the nervous system part's really important, Jasmine, so I'm glad you brought that in.
Yeah. And I think and this is my truth. So, anybody listening, take it or leave it. This is just, we can only speak from our own experience. But my experience has been, I absolutely need to pull the nervous system in, but I do it from a place of knowing that nervous system regulation means I'm still going to feel at times dysregulated, but it's holding myself through that. And to your point, Gemma, it's like, I don't, to stay there forever and not move. My truth has been, if I can take action while I'm holding myself in that dysregulation with the tools of like somatics or, like my thing is like going for a walk with no socks on. I don't know why that helps, but walking in the grass and grounding myself, or, taking a shower, reading a book, doing some journaling, like journaling out that I'm nervous, right? But if I'm, I think and maybe this was my own misinterpretation when I started all of this work, but mine was like, well, nervous system regulation means I must be completely regulated before I move.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
And, and,
no.
and it's like, well, oh my gosh, like I'm being totally honest with you. If I was waiting for that, I would not have done anything I would ever have done. But I can tell you what has helped me is holding myself with those tools. So like you said, EFT tapping, somatics, like whatever you need to do, right? Like you probably know what makes you feel calm or regulated to a degree, and then moving anyway. And that has what helped collapse time, because on the other side of moving anyway is when my body actually knows, oh, this wasn't so bad. Right? The anticipation of its risk, the anticipation of holding the boundary, the anticipation of that, and then trying to completely regulate that has not been my experience. My experience has been just being able to hold myself enough that I can move anyway. And then it shifts, because once I take the action, I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Right?
Yeah, and do you feel as well, like from a quantum perspective, when you take the action, you're actually choosing a new timeline. So the you on that timeline is actually pretty confident and regulated with that decision. So it's like as you make that decision, like your free will puts you onto that new timeline
Yeah.
where you're that version of you that is regulated and centered and grounded with that anyway. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I think for me, it has actually come down to identity more, right? So the more I practice what we just talked about, the more I can actually become that identity. So for example, now purchasing houses or like that does not dysregulate me whatsoever. There was a time when it very much did, but the more I practice it, it's kind of like anything. The more you go to the gym, you're going to have a muscle, right? So it's the same idea where it's like the first few times you go, it's a complete slog. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating. What's happening? This is so awful. But then, by day 30 or 31, AKA done it 30, 35 times, it does become a lot easier. It's like a muscle memory. You talk about like riding a bike. It's like that. And then it becomes easy because you now identify as the person who can purchase real estate. And then it doesn't dysregulate you the way it once was. But I guess the point is for anybody listening is like, it will always do that to you in the beginning.
Mhm. I thought that
That's
about this live just before I came on. I just kind of flowed onto the live. And then I had this little moment where I was like, oh, how nice is it to just flow onto a live? 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, I'm going live and I'm shaking and I need to
I
have my notes done,
know.
We were just like, let's
That's,
just hop on and talk about it. Just flow onto the live. So
that's
yeah,
exactly
it's
it.
everything. It's everything, isn't it? You do it the first time and then
Everything.
you start to build that muscle.
Yeah, and I think what has, historically choked me up is that let's say I do something and then I don't get the evidence or I don't get the result I want. Well, that also has the ability to shrink you back into the lower identity. Right? But again, holding that and going, you know what, maybe that didn't work out perfect, but I'm going to keep going because actually my sacral knows this is the way.
Mhm.
That has been exceptional as well.
That's huge, isn't it? Holding yourself through that when it doesn't show up in the 3D and trusting in the energy
Yeah.
it is done and
Yeah.
keep going and all the things and the energies like coming in and you're just like no and holding that's been huge for me like really holding myself through that when that's happened and um yeah and I feel there's also something about like not sharing like everything with people as well like when you're in that space of holding that you want like your cheerleaders around you, right? You don't want anyone that's going to say, well, that's not logical. Or like, do you find that's important? Like who you share stuff with as well?
Yeah, I think over time you start to know who you can share with and who you can't. I mean, the people that are going to, desire what you're doing are going to be called into your frequency and those are going to be repelled. I think my experience has more been, knowing who I want to share with and knowing who I don't. But there's a little bit of a but here, which is like sometimes we love people that are in our circle that will never understand what the heck we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so developing this incredible, just how do I say it? Inner knowing, inner confidence that I don't need that validation, right? And also if I don't get that validation or I don't get the justification from someone I care about, I'm able to see from a bigger place for them. So what I mean is like I understand why they think that. And I understand that that is their truth. And actually it doesn't mean anything about me. And so that for me has been important, less so about necessarily not sharing with everyone, but how do I cultivate that, I'll call it like shield, maybe that's not the right word,
Yeah.
but like my rainbow bubble. My husband
Mhm.
calls it my rainbow bubble, and it's like for the longest
Love
time I was
that.
like, I don't like this, and then I was like, yes I do. This is totally right. Like this is where like unicorns fly in and crazy money comes in, and
Yeah.
I'm happy in here. So, if you don't share my truth, that's really none of my business.
Yeah.
And so, with love, I just disconnect from that. I think it was Brene Brown that said, a lot of people have a lot to say when they're outside the ring, but if they're not in the ring with
Mhm.
mud on their face, they
Yeah.
don't really get a say. And so, and not from a place of like, I don't care, just from a place of
Mhm.
like loving, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
That's totally
okay.
been my journey with TikTok. That was my
Yeah.
TikTok journey, just like, okay, yeah, really anchoring that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Uh,
Yeah. TikTok can
sometimes,
be a little bit of a bloodbath over there. But
yeah,
again, to your point, it's like, I don't need everyone to. And
no,
the other thing that I've really landed on is that not everybody will be called into my frequency. And
mhm,
that's okay. Like I'm
yeah,
actually not here to serve the people who don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
mhm,
I'm actually calling in the women who are like, Yes, this is a hell yes. And I know this frequency and I want to go deeper. And I know exactly what you're, trying to transmit to me because it's speaking to my heart. And the others, it's like lovingly, maybe they'll get there, but they're not there now. And that's totally okay because all things in divine timing too. So
Totally. Amazing. I'm
yeah.
conscious of time. We're coming to the end of our session. Is there anything
Yeah.
else that you'd like to share with the audience? It's been absolutely amazing. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation.
I know, me too. We've been talking about it for quite some time and then we were like all over the map. So I'm so glad we got it to come together. I think I would just say, as you listen to this live, like these are not concepts. Like these are not things that I want you to live in your head about. If we live in our head and we live completely in that 5D, I've had a lot of clients say like, well, I'm like so amazing up here, but it's not coming to the 3D. And the bridge there is action. The bridge there is just becoming the thing in 3D. And so whatever you think about 3D life, that's where you actually want to collapse time. And so, this is not something I want people to conceptualize. It's not something I want people to be inspired by. I want them to take action because action is that bridge. Action is what will collapse that nervous system dysregulation into regulation. That's what actually brings in crazy wealth. So, and abundance.
Action is the bridge. That feels like the caption for today's live. I love that so much, Jasmine. Thank you. Action is the bridge. I would definitely echo that after some big sacred yeses that I've made over the last few weeks. Yeah, action is the bridge. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Jasmine. It's been so amazing to be here live with you. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. And for anyone listening, if this podcast is recorded, okay, because I've got it going in the laptop in the background, I'll pop Jasmine's details in there so you can connect with her. And
Yes.
yeah, any questions, let us know.
Yes. Thanks,
Thanks,
Gemma.
Jasmine.
Bye,
Bye.
doll.